Hello. So, as I alluded to in a previous video, there was a young kid, Jeremy, that came in and, yeah, we played 3 games and I got crushed in 2 of them and I swindled out a win. Well, I wouldn't say swindled. He blundered really bad in the second game. I asked him what his rating was after the first game, and he said like 1900. I'm like, oh shit. This young child is 1900. It's crazy. Kids are crazy. Kids are super good at chess if they start early. It's wild. So I just want to like go through the games real quick and, you know, just talk about the games. Because I thought they were good games. I mean, they were recorded, so I may as well just throw them up somewhere and they'll just live on YouTube for now, I guess. So this is the first game we played. I had white, and it started off as a Scandinavian. Mainline stuff. ED, Queen D5, Knight C3, Queen A5, and my go-to move is the Leonhardt Gambit with B4. He takes on Queen B. Wow, I just stuttered really hard there. He takes Queen B4. Queen takes B4. Rook B1 is the move, and then he played Queen D6 without much thought. And when he played this immediately, I was like, "Oh God, okay, so he knows how to play against this. This is not going to be great for me." Usually people struggle and think here because they're not used to it. But when he played it pretty quick, I realized, okay, this is going to be bad. I didn't know his rating yet, right? I haven't asked him yet, so I was like, oh shit, this guy might be really good. And just start with normal development. Knight f3, c6, bishop d3, knight f6, castles, e6, bishop b3. I mean rook b3. Computer says knight e4 was better, which I didn't really want to trade. I didn't want to trade the knight like this. I didn't think it really proved much, but you know, who am I to argue with the computer, right? I played rook b3 because I know somewhere down the line, if he castles kingside, I can try to find tempo on his queen and allow a rook lift later into the game to like attack his king. So that's what I was trying to aim for. Bishop b7, rook e1. So he does castle that way. So I was trying to find a way to capitalize, but I started with bishop a3 just to push his queen around some more, and also maybe get some pressure on this diagonal. Obviously his bishop's there, so it probably wasn't even that great of a move, but computer says it's still fine. Knight e4, he trades bishops off, which I guess kind of makes sense. If I'm going to attack, then I have less pieces to attack with. But on the other hand, he still hasn't developed any of these pieces, and his queen fell back to the starting square. So I thought this might be okay for me still. Knight bd7. I play knight g5, which turned out to be pretty bad. This move was really hopeful, and honestly didn't really lead me anywhere. He just plays h6, and I have to move my knight back. And there's not really a justification for putting his pawn here. Like, it's a hook, but I can't really sacrifice it for anything. You know, I could have left it there and hoped he would have done something like this, but that doesn't look so clear. Also because I don't have a dark squared bishop to protect it, so it's going to be a loose piece, and I didn't think that was a good idea. So on e4 he takes, I take back, he puts his other knight on f6, and I retreat back to d3. I didn't need to retreat back. Maybe I could have gone with d4. Computer says knight e5 and d4 are basically the same. I didn't see knight e5, but I also didn't see a reason to put my knight here, because I felt like it didn't really do anything, right? Controlling these squares, it's not really much to talk about. So bishop d3, queen d6. I put my rook back on b3 just to pressure this pawn here and make it hard for his bishop to really move, even though it can't move at all really. But he plays b6. queen e2, and the reason for b6 was, of course, bishop b7. I don't know why I offered him a trade of queens, but I did. He defends, wanting me to take him, which I obliged to for some reason, but yeah, at this point I was kind of floundering around. I really was not, I really didn't have a plan on what I was doing here. I was kind of just shuffling my pieces around. Apparently rook b to b1 is a mistake because of bishop f3, which, okay, damaging my pawn structure. And he's still up a pawn from the gambit to begin with, so yeah, I didn't really prove much in the opening after gambiting that pawn, which was a big problem. I couldn't find an attack going forward from that earlier position. Apparently knight d5 is a miss, and I'm supposed to play bishop e4, but okay. So we get c3, knight f3. I try to trade his bishop because I figured his bishop was stronger than mine, but now he kind of plants his knight into my territory. It's kind of controlling these squares, which could be useful. And the thing with knights is, like, the knights will control the squares against the other knight. You know, for example, I can't actually put my knight on this square because he can take it. But I do try to kick him with g3. He counterattacks with f5. I try to go rook a4 just to keep his rook on this pawn. He gives me a check, but he also takes another pawn, which is bad. I just play king g2, forcing something out of him to deal with his knight. He plays g4. I don't have to move my knight technically because I can take in response. So I just play rook d1. He takes my knight, I take his knight. He doubles on the d file. I could take on a7, but I also didn't think that coming to a7 was going to do me anything later. I guess I could try to eat his pawns now, but he's going to be on the second rank and he's going to be able to defend anyway, so I wasn't so sure what I would do here. Plus he's also really close to promoting, so I need to, like, kind of figure out a plan for that as well. That's why I played g4, so I could bring my king over, and if he takes, I'll just take this way and it's fine. Or what I did in the game after this rook trade that I can't really stop. So I move my king over to g3, he takes on g4, I take with check, take check again, and then I win a pawn, but he takes my a pawn, and now I'm down 3 pawns, and yeah, no, this game is just lost. I try to defend, but after a couple more moves, I just resigned because I'm sure with the way he was playing, and he also knows the, like, courtesy thing where it's like if you want to, you know, like, adjust your pieces to be more centered on the square they're on, you like say adjust and you just, like, inch it over a little bit so it's more aligned. He was saying that every time, and I was just like, okay, he knows all the stuff you're supposed to know when you play OTP. There's a lot of, like, small things that you're supposed to do when you play over the board, especially in, like, official tournaments. I mean, this was just a casual game, so, you know, it wouldn't really matter if he didn't do those things. But yeah, he basically, he slowly just killed me this game, which was fine. You know, he knew the opening, and I talked to him after the game. He's like, so are you familiar with this opening? Because, you know, you played the best move, like, instantly. He's like, yeah, I lost to it twice before, and then I just said never again after that. And I was like, okay, well, fair enough. Yeah, queen d6 is the best move here. It captures the pawn. I can't attack the queen anymore. And it's hard for me to really do much of anything, right? I don't really have that much of a lead in development. The only thing I have going for me is pressure on this b7 pawn, so wasn't meant to be. This is the second game we played. I had the black pieces this time. He starts d4. I go into my normal Dutch. So knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5. This is known as the Raphael variation. I know it's usually fine if I just go with e6. It's not the best move. Apparently the computer is recommending d5 immediately. Which, now that I think about it and think about how the game went, it makes a lot of sense. But I didn't like the structure I was going to get. Well, I don't like the structure I would get if he takes here. ED5. This looks kind of weird. So, anyway. Bishop G5. I play E6 with the normal classical Dutch setup. And then he plays E4. And this is basically like a delayed Staunton Gambit, where normally in the Staunton you have D4, F5, E4 immediately. Going into the position here, it's like we played a bunch of other moves afterwards. But yeah, anyway. Obviously I can't do nothing about it because he's going to push D5 and this would just be bad. I guess I could play Bishop E7 and not care, but I also don't want him to take this way because then I have a really open king like on these diagonals. So I decided to take. He takes with the knight. I play Bishop E7 guarding my knight. He trades and then he plays Queen H5 check. Here I took a bit to think and I really didn't know what to do. I thought G6 led my position to be really airy and like hard to defend. But it turns out G6 was the way to go because against this you can play... you can just play Knight C6 anyway. And white doesn't really have an attack. Queen E7. Knight F6 here. Long castle. Wow, okay, so I guess white doesn't actually have much of an attack here. 97. Bishop D3. D6 or B6. D6 is slightly better. And I'd have to go into something like this. This looks really uncomfortable, so I didn't play it, of course. But apparently it's playable. Like, it's plus 0.4, so... yeah, I chose the wrong move and I played King F8 in that earlier position, which is, this is the earlier position. I played King F8, which was the wrong move. He long castles. I play Knight C6, Knight F3. I'm just trying to develop pieces and get them over here to try to defend against an incoming assault here. D6, Knight F5. Queen E7 apparently was a big mistake because of the move he plays here, Knight H7 check. I thought this was fine for me. Like, obviously I'm starting to be in a little bit of danger because his pieces are really coming in, but I thought I was still okay. I played King G8, which apparently is absolutely losing. He plays Knight E takes F6 check, and it's going from bad to worse. I play G takes F3, thinking I'm okay. I'm not okay. Queen G6. It's gonna be mate in 3. I block with the queen, but then he gives me the wrong check, and then I take the knight, and he tries to, hold on to a hope of an attack with Bishop D3, but then I block with I play King H6. I don't block. I play King H6 because his queen is trapped, right? His queen is trapped, and this escape route, the only thing he can do really is play Queen G6 check, which lets me win a bishop. So now I'm randomly just up a bishop and a knight for a pawn because he messed up this checkmate. Yeah, the correct move was this check instead, and then checkmating like this. He tries to assault, last attempt, desperation. So H4, Bishop D7, G4. I'm bringing my rooks to kind of defend against these files that may open up, but I just run my king away, try to break in the center a little bit, and he keeps trying to push his pawns, and I just slowly chip away at him, win another pawn, defend everything, get everything nice and cozy, so he doesn't really have many moves to make. and then eventually I will break here with f5. He plays rook cg1. I take on g4. He takes, and then I give him this discovered check. Now that the f pawn is moved, and I'm gonna win another exchange. And here he resigned. He's just down too many pieces. He's down a pawn and a rook, or I mean a rook and a knight, or a rook and a bishop, whatever he takes. And yeah, that was basically the game. I can very easily win these pawns, and I'm gonna win by pushing these as well. So yeah, I definitely deserved to lose that game, but he messed it up at the end, or in the middle there, and gave me the wrong check. He goes with c4 this time, and his friend was kind of teasing him to play like some silly opening, which he kind of did here. So he starts with an English. I go into this setup with g6, bishop g7. It's called the Great Snake, apparently. But he transposes back into a modern defense with d4, c4. Just the move order is reversed for him. And then he plays b4. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're doing. All right, sure. Yeah, so I played d6, which apparently already is a mistake. Knight c6 is the move. Sure. Wait, knight c6. What's wrong with this? Bishop d4. And if you take here, I take there. Okay. I stuck with the modern. I didn't want to go into like a Dutch style setup, because the thing with the Leningrad Dutch, where you have your pawns like this rather than like this, is that this diagonal is kind of open. Oops. And this one as well. And this light square diagonal is kind of problematic. You can defend it, of course, and you can play around it, but I didn't really like it when I was trying to learn it. So yeah, so I go into a modern defense with the usual g6, d6, bishop g7, and let's just see what happens. He plays e4, and I play e5, I was trying to just like break the center somehow, but c5 was supposed to be the right way. And I can see why now, because he's basically forced to trade if he tries to take room in the center. Well, first of all, he can't push that pawn because it's pinned. So what would he do here? He probably doesn't even do anything, just plays, okay, yeah, bishop b2. Okay. Just do this, block the diagonal, prepare d5. Okay. But apparently it's -1, so he locks the center. I play knight e7. I'm just trying to castle. I'm not really sure what else I should be doing here. He plays a5, so he's being pawn man and just pushing all of his pawns. I know it's not the worst thing in the world if all of his pawns are pushed. For me, it's not like actually that advantageous for him, because we could get a locked center and maybe this game just turns into like the dumbest draw of our lives. So I castle. He plays e3, or sorry, f3. Apparently it's a mistake, which is crazy. And then I played f5. So it's not that I'm trying to play a Dutch again. It's more that I want to try to break and open up my f file. He plays knight c3, and now I'm trying to break with c6. He plays bishop g5. I move my queen out of this pin here, just so that I can move my knight to capture this way if I really wanted to, or I can support this pawn break if he wants to take this way. Oops. So yeah, queen e8, queen d2, bishop d7, knight e2, knight e2, and then I decided to take once. I just wanted to see what would happen here, because I want to make something happen. He takes this way, so my plan was, okay, let me try to bring my rook into the game, and how would I do that? I need to move the knight. Where do I move the knight? I mean, there's only one place to move it, so knight a6. It also hits this pawn, and if he pushes it, I get the outpost on c5. So he does push, and then like the outpost on c5. Rook b1, b6, and now I know he can't castle this way if he for some reason wanted to. And his king maybe can get a little weak on this diagonal here, like maybe in some dream world. He reroutes his knight to c1. Interesting. And then I decide to lock it down. Computer says I should have taken this way. Before, and I get this open rook here. Makes sense. But I decided to push because I wanted to disconnect the bishop from the queen. And he notices that, so he just trades it off and doesn't have to deal with that problem. He goes for this. He goes for knight d3. I defend my knight. That's on a good square. He tries to run his king around, which I thought was strange. I'm surprised he didn't play just bishop e2. Queen h4 check. Yeah, so I didn't really know why he didn't just do this, but okay. But okay, you know, you play chess and you play the good moves. Anyway, I give him the check anyway, and he runs away to e2. in the game, he was like really trying to figure out, like he kept his hand on the piece. He was trying to he was literally like this. He wasn't really sure, which I thought was funny, but he ended up playing this. I played g5. I was trying to break this open a little bit and try to get some pressure. Queen e1. I don't want to trade queens, so I bring mine back to h5. He plays rook c8, or sorry, rook c1. And apparently it's -3 because of knight b3. I didn't see that. I mean, I thought, okay, rook b1. I didn't see knight d4 check. Knight d4, king d1, g4, bishop e2. Knight takes f3. And if you take this way, gf3, you can't take, so you go... Oh, you don't even move the bishop. Wow, you could just go knight f2. And you let me take this? You go into this, and I'm better. I have the bishop pair, and I can start going this way, I guess. It's -5. Oh, well, your knight's hanging, so... I see. Your knight's hanging. Yeah, I just didn't see this whole like sequence, so I just played g4 immediately. I didn't see this maneuver. And then he played h3. Again, the computer says it's -5, but I didn't see why. Gf3 is correct. He takes this way. And now I need to find knight takes d3. Let me just see. Ah, because if he takes, I start infiltrating. And the rook is hanging. Oh, I didn't see that. Wow. Huh, so I needed to see this. I needed to get his... Oh, okay, yeah, because only the king defends his pawn, so he... I mean, not right now, so... I need to do something like this. Oh, wow. I really didn't see any of these tactics. That's crazy. Yeah, okay. But yeah, so I didn't see any of this, clearly. And I just played bishop f6, which is still fine. But I'm not like as winning as I was before. He gives me a check, I run. And then again, I still have a tactic here with... computer wants bishop h4 to pin this. Okay, rook g8 is not the best move. He plays this. Knight g4. And I was thinking, okay, this should be fine. So I take the pawn thinking that he can go... That if he takes here, I have a fork. And technically, if he takes, then yeah, it does work. But what I failed to realize is that he has knight takes f6, forking my rook and queen, and it's just all over from here. There's just so many tactics with taking on g8 here. I take here first. It comes with check. He takes, and I cannot take his rook because then this is checkmate. So I just give him a random check and flounder. I take this rook, but in the end it's not going to work because he takes my other rook with check. I try to move out of the way, but I forget that my queen is still hanging. I mean, it's not like I had anywhere to move it to stop this check, so I was basically lost after this, and I just resigned. I just gave up. Yeah, so I was better, which is crazy. I was better against this weird opening. I just didn't find the right maneuvers. I just didn't see the tactics. But yeah, rough games all around. He perfectly blunted me in this Scandinavian as white. I just had nothing going for me. In this game in the Dutch, he just blundered and messed up, and I was actually able to capitalize. And then in this game, I couldn't capitalize on my advantage this time. Yeah, so those are the games with Jeremy. Very interesting. He's a young child, so it's refreshing to, well, I wouldn't say refreshing, but it's nice to see like a kid that young be so good. But at the same time, I'm just like, damn, I wish I was that good when I was that age. Oh well. But yeah, those are my games. Just kind of cool just to play someone that is like that much better than me. The age part I'm not too like fascinated about, because I know children that play chess can get really good really fast. But it was just nice to play someone that was that much higher rated than me and just lose and be like, wow, that's crazy. All right. So yeah, thanks for watching.